Totally stole my line, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. We hope you guys are having an incredible morning. As you can tell, we're off to a great start so far. But
this is always the moment where I realize I need so much more caffeine.
I know. I was just telling you, this is. Well, all right. Anyway, we're just going to get straight in here. I want to introduce myself as the man who spills tea. My name is Stephen Bolt.
I'm Samantha Harmon. Yeah, go ahead and fix that. We are so excited that you're joining us today. If this is your first time joining us, go ahead and text us, Northshore to 97,000. We would love to meet you and help you get connected and find your next step here at Northshore.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. If you are new, regardless of where you live at, we know we have people joining us from all over the United States and all over the world. That phone number is not for people that are just around our campus. Just text that Northshore to 97,000. And we would love to just connect with you, say hi, get you plugged in here.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Happy New Year, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. Happy New Year to 2021.
2021 is here. But we were talking earlier and just like reminiscing about Christmas Eve. So we kind of wanted to like go back and just think about how awesome it was. Because it was such a cool experience. So many of you joined us, but if you didn't get a chance to join us, we have a little, some video clips that we put together to kind of give you a taste of what you might have missed. So go ahead and take a look at this. Welcome to Christmas Eve at Northshore. We are so excited that you're here with us.
Now notice, the Christmas story doesn't begin with the words, once upon a time or a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It begins with the words, in those days, which means this isn't a fairy tale story, it's a real life story. This hasn't been a once upon a time kind of year, it's been an in those days kind of year. But the first Christmas reminds us that's when God shows up.
What a unique and fun Christmas Eve that was. It was very different. I told someone today, it's been 8 years since I haven't been at a church on Christmas Eve. I know for a lot of you guys, it's probably been a lot longer than 8 years. But just to be able to spend that at home with my wife and our daughter, we played along, and believe it or not, so there was a part in the service where you could fill out a bingo card from home, and if you won, you would text in bingo and get entered in for a drawing. And we actually did get a bingo at home. We texted in, I wasn't sure if I could win or not.
I don't think you're eligible for the sweepstakes.
Okay, so by her telling me this, I know now I did not win.
You did not win.
But you know who won.
But I do have 3 winners, and they have already received their prizes. But they are Jen North, Cynthia Kennedy, and Justin Burden. Woo. So congratulations to you guys. Thank you, all of you, for playing. That was so much fun. You know, I've never made a bingo card before, let alone a Christmas Eve bingo card.
No.
But that was so much fun, and you guys loved it, so.
Next year, we're gonna send you all slot machines. No. A little more gambling on Christmas Eve. But it was a ton of fun, and just even the chat section, being able to talk with people and say hello was just a really cool experience. And thank you again for the whole team who made that service happen. So many volunteers and hours went into that, so thank you guys again. It was such a special experience.
And we found out afterwards that 27 different states, people from 27 different states were tuning in. And I was just told that I should list all of the 27 states and what I love about each one.
Alphabetically.
Yeah. But we don't have enough time to do that.
Please don't do that. Oh man.
We don't have enough time for that. So, but again, thank you for joining us on Christmas Eve. And if you're back after you just joined us at Christmas Eve for the first time, we are so glad that you're here. Welcome to Northshore Online. Again, my name is Samantha Harmon.
Yeah, and my name is Stephen, and you guys picked a perfect week to join in because we just had New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
We're launching into a new year, new series. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but
Happy New
this
Year.
is like the perfect, if you are just joining us, this is the perfect week to jump in. Because I think we're going to talk a little bit about, are you a like, I feel like there's people who take New Year's Eve like totally seriously, a new chapter of my life.
Right, new year,
When I wake up January 1st, I am a new man.
Yeah.
And then there's people who are like, listen, this is Groundhog Day. I just wake up, it's another day in the life.
I know.
Where do you sit in
New
that?
Year's resolutions are definitely like a hot topic, I feel like. So we have a hot take for you this morning about...
No cap, hot take.
About New Year's resolutions. I don't know, I feel like where I've gone wrong with New Year's resolutions, we're still laughing about things, I don't know, is that I've always made them too big. I'm like, I want to read more.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
That's just, it's too big.
Who can hold you accountable to that?
Exactly.
Like, yeah. Yep.
I need to make more concrete, I don't know. How about you? Are you into that or no?
I feel like I kind of stopped making, actually, not really. I don't really make New Year's resolutions anymore. I think I'm similar to you. I think the only if I want to set something that I actually change, I know what that means. And it means accountability for me, and it means being able to kind of turn it into bite-sized things. And so I think I don't tend to look at like a new year as something that is going to radically change how I live.
Right.
But it is a great time to just pause and reflect on like, when I get a year from now, what do I want to look back on
and
see growth in? And so.
Yeah. And I actually found a really awesome video that I wanted to show you. There's an adorable 4-year-old girl who wanted to give us a little bit of advice about our New Year's resolutions. So go ahead and take a look at this.
I have a problem with New Year's resolutions, not because they often fail or because they're too difficult, and not because I'm bad at them either. I mean, I've only been alive for 4 New Years. No, I have a problem with resolutions because people think that that's it. It's for one time to change. Now, don't get me wrong, we definitely all need change. I have no idea how to ride a bicycle, and my little brother has no idea what a toilet is for. And some of you, you probably should get out of the house more, but one big decision probably isn't going to do it. Sorry. So now what? Flush your resolutions down the toilet for one my little brother can't use? Of course not. Keep your resolutions, but go easy on yourself. Will you change? Maybe, but probably won't happen in one big moment. It'll happen in thousands of little moments. Every time you choose to forgive or slow down or be grateful or stay calm, each little moment that you choose what's right instead of what's easy, faith instead of doubt, love instead of hate, that's where the change happens. Even if you fail 1 or 2 or 30 times, it's okay. You've got thousands of more little moments ahead of you. You'll get better. So Happy New Year, God bless, and I'm off to ask my dad to get a bike, either or a pony. Bye!
I love that. She's so cute.
She is.
And so wise.
Yes.
She has so much wisdom to share with us. I thought that was so great.
It's such a good reminder just of like, when you set these big goals, even if you mess up a couple times, it really is. You get a million opportunities to make decisions to see that goal come to fruition.
Each and every day, like one step at a time.
Good reminder, And I know so many of these resolutions include things like finding community or deep relationships or taking your next step to find out more about who Jesus is. And we have 2 amazing opportunities coming up. One of them is Starting Point, which is something that we do here at Northshore that, again, just answers those questions of who are we as a church, why do we exist? It's kind of a multi-week process where we'll also help you find community, find life groups. I know life groups for me have just been like so many good, deep relationships. You guys have an incredible life group as well. Finding places to serve. So just regardless of what your resolution is, Starting Point is a great spot to jump in and find out more about Northshore and about who you are and what your story here can be.
Yeah, and Alpha too is also coming up. And this is a great place if you have questions about God and faith and church and just any of those big life questions. This is a great place for you, judgment-free, to be able to ask these questions and just be in a community that is safe and would love to help you work through some of those questions. So Alpha and Starting Point are coming up starting January 19th. And you can head over to northshore.church/connect to learn more about each of those and get signed up.
And if you are just joining us or just tuning in here in the last couple of minutes, we just want to welcome you again. We're so excited that you're here. My name is Stephen Bolt.
And I'm Samantha Harmon. And new year, new series.
New series.
What's it called?
It is called Before You Cancel 2020. We're going to be taking a look at, man, what a difficult year.
Yeah.
And it's easy just to cancel it, throw it out, get it out of here.
Forget it ever happened.
Forget it ever happened. But just we're believing that there is things that God wants us to take out of that.
Yeah.
That He's going to show us. He doesn't waste any hardship. So excited to see what God wants us to take out of 2020 to bring with us as we move forward into the next year and into the rest of our lives. So it's a great opportunity. If you are just joining us, you picked a perfect week to jump in, and we are so excited that you're here.
Absolutely. Let's get started with worship together. Again, welcome to Northshore Online. We are so excited that you're here.
Well, thank y'all so much for joining us today. My name is Mitch, and I'm on staff here. We just invite you to worship with us wherever you are today. I searched the world, it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures of fame, never knew. Then you came along and put me back together. Every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. I raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah. Heaven comes to fight for me. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive.
Northshore, it is so good to be back with you again this week. If we haven't met yet, my name is Stephen Bolt, and we are so thankful that you're choosing to spend some time with us here at Northshore. If this is your first time joining us, I'm so thrilled to be the first to say welcome, and we're so thankful that you're here with us. Everything that we do here happens because we believe that there is no problem that Jesus can't solve. So know that regardless of what you're going through, regardless of what 2020 looked like, or maybe what this last month looked like, or even this last day, we are so excited because this week we have an experience that we believe is going to give you some joy and encouragement as we move forward into this next year. Well, I hope that you were able to join us just 1 week ago for our Christmas Eve experiences. What a special and incredible evening it was, and so cool to get to say hi to so many of you in our chat and get to experience that with you from our living rooms or our cars or kitchens or wherever you were, just all together that evening. Believe it or not, we had people from all over the world hearing the message of Christmas with us that evening. If you would have told me last year if I thought that people in 27 different states and multiple countries would have joined us for our 2020 Christmas Eve services, I would not have believed it. I know that for a lot of you right now, giving to Northshore isn't an easy thing to do, but it's experiences like Christmas Eve that remind me why I give. To see people come to know Jesus, regardless of if they live in the Puget Sound or anywhere else in the world. So thank you guys so much for being a part of that. If you haven't taken a step yet of giving here at Northshore, I'd invite you to do it this week. To give, you can head over to our website, northshore.church/give, or just click the link that our hosts are posting in the chat section. Well, church, I'm excited because today we're starting a brand new series called Before You Cancel 2020. And it's going to be cool because as a church, we just get to look back at 2020, and before we throw the whole thing out, burn it all, we're going to get to look back and see what God has been teaching us this whole time and what He wants us to take forward into these next few years. Scotty's got an incredible message for us, so let's jump in together, and thank you guys again for tuning in here at Northshore Online.
Hey everybody, welcome to Northshore and Happy New Year. I don't know about you, but I was ready for 2021 like back in July. But now, we finally made it. Now we can finally say 2020 is behind us. So let's close in prayer. I'm just kidding, but it feels that way, right? I mean, 2020 was like one calamity after another, to the point that when something happened, people were just saying this one phrase over and over. That's just so 2020. Oh, you broke your leg? That's just so 2020. Oh, you got audited this year? That's just so 2020. Wow, your girlfriend dumped you for a guy she met on Zoom? Sounds like our good old friend 2020. I mean, only in the year 2020 would we face not just a global pandemic, but an outbreak of murder hornets. I mean, not regular hornets, but murder hornets. I saw a meme that said, "What are murder hornets and how much toilet paper do we need to buy?" Because that's just so 2020. Now, to be fair, 2020 hasn't been all bad. Many of you have had more time with your family, or you're no longer having to commute through traffic, or maybe you welcomed a new member of the family this year. Some parents even used the pandemic as inspiration for naming their newborns, like the twins in India who were named COVID and Corona. True story. Or the 2 boys that were named Lockdown and Sanitizer. These are real things. Now, when asked why, their parents said they wanted to turn the fear and anxiety of the season into something positive, which is admirable, though I wonder if their kids will see it that way when they grow up. But for most people, 2020 has felt like a year worth forgetting. I mean, think about it. It's impacted everybody. Seniors have struggled. Parents have struggled. Students have struggled. Workers have struggled. Healthcare providers have struggled. The under-resourced have really struggled. And the list can go on and on. Our 3-year-old daughter has been missing out on the social and emotional development that comes from being able to play with other kids. And our son Jude, who was born just a few weeks before the pandemic began, didn't see any other human beings outside our family for months. So now he's skittish around pretty much everybody. And all that has been heartbreaking for us. And I imagine most, if not all of you, have a story of heartbreak or loss or disruption or discouragement because that's just so 2020, right? So here's what I want to do as we get started. I want you to take out something that you can write with or write on. You can go with the old classic pen and paper approach, or just grab your phone or a computer. And I want you to write down the most heartbreaking or discouraging or disruptive part of 2020 that happened in your life. Now, it could be the loss of work or school. It could be pain in a relationship or your family. It could be a sickness or unemployment or growing debt. It could be depression or discouragement. Just write down anything from 2020 that you wish you could change or simply put behind you. Everybody write something down? Now, I want you to keep this close because I'm going to ask you to do something with it in just a few moments. But the fact that we all have something we want to leave behind is one of the reasons why so many people were so excited about starting a new year. And yes, a new year is an opportunity for a fresh start. It's a chance to make new decisions or set new priorities or try to improve our lives. But before we turn the page on 2020, I believe God is calling us to stop and actually look back and ask some really important questions. Like, how about this? What can I learn from this past year? Or this, what has God been trying to teach me this past year? Or what if 2020 isn't a year to forget, but a year to learn from? There's a poem that went viral this past year that captures this sentiment so well. It says, what if 2020 isn't canceled? What if 2020 is the year we've been waiting for? A year so uncomfortable, so painful, so scary, so raw, that it finally forces us to grow. A year that screams so loudly, finally awakening us from our ignorant slumber. A year we finally accept the need for change, declare change, work for change, become the change. A year we finally band together instead of pushing each other further apart. 2020 isn't canceled, but rather the most important year of them all. And here's the thing, I think God would agree. I think God has been at work using 2020 and all the calamities therein to get our attention, to wake us up to His priorities and His plan. So, we've decided to kick off this new year with a series called Before You Cancel 2020. That is, before you burn your mask or uninstall Zoom, we're going to pause and ask the question, God, what have you been trying to teach us? How have you been trying to grow us? Where have you been trying to take us? Because if we stop and look back, we're going to find some really clear evidence of God at work throughout 2020 and then what all that could mean for 2021. So if you're discouraged about the state of your life or your marriage or your family, or if you're struggling with resentment or depression or grief, I am so glad you're here because today I want to talk about the reason why all this happened. So a couple of weeks ago, Google released its annual year-end search data about what people searched for over the past year. As you might expect, the coronavirus and the election results were the top two searches, but 2020 impacted lots of questions. In fact, the top how-to questions included how to cut your hair at home and how to make hand sanitizer. Some of the top where is questions included, where is my stimulus money? And where is my refund? And here's a fun one, where is Kansas City? Because people who live on either coast don't really know where anything in the middle actually is. But what was most striking about the search data from 2020 was that people were asking why more than ever before. Why is it called coronavirus? Why are schools closed? Why are sports canceled? Why is toilet paper sold out? Why was George Floyd arrested? Why are people protesting? Why is our country so divided? Why am I so tired? Why am I so anxious? Why did any of this happen? You see, 2020 didn't really raise any new questions. It just pointed us back to the oldest question there is, God, why? So, for the rest of my time with you today, I want to take you back to a story from the life of Jesus when Jesus was asked this very same question. It's a story from the Gospel of John about Jesus healing a man who was born blind. In fact, in the story, Jesus actually spits on the ground, makes mud with his spit, and then puts the mud all over the man's eyes. And when the man washed the mud off, he was able to see. It was a miracle. It's an amazing story. But the most important part of that story isn't actually the miracle. It's what happens before the miracle. Look how the story begins. John writes this. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Now, in the ancient world, being blind from birth was not just a difficult hardship. It would make you an outcast in society. This man would have been unable to have a job or a family, which is why he was sitting alongside the side of the road, most likely begging for food or for money. And it was in that exact place, that exact condition, that Jesus saw him. He noticed him. I mean, think about that. People have been walking by this guy like all the time. Everybody knew he was there, but no one really saw him. No one stopped to take an interest in his life or his pain, which is exactly how it can so often feel when you're experiencing suffering or pain or loss. Feels like no one really sees you. No one really gets it. I heard from someone recently who's going through a very messy divorce, and he said, it's not just a painful process, it's an incredibly lonely one. I mean, sure, everybody has a word of advice or direction, but basically, they're all just kind of passing along by. No one really stops and sees you. And this man, blind from birth, was being passed by all the time, but get this, Jesus saw him. In fact, if you look back at the life of Jesus, he often saw people that no one else really saw. The Samaritan woman at the well, the disabled man who had been at that pool at Bethesda for 38 years. Jesus, you see, he sees hurting people, and he notices first those who are hurting the most. Which means, and this is what I want you to remember as we start a new year, God saw you in 2020. He saw you in 2020. He was there on those days when you didn't think you would make it. He was there in those moments when you felt totally alone. He was there in those moments when you couldn't see or feel him at all. You see, just because you don't see God doesn't mean God doesn't see you. And this isn't just a helpful reminder for 2020. It's something we need to keep close to our hearts all the time. When you're struggling in your marriage and nobody else knows, God sees you. When you're grieving that miscarriage and you can't bring yourself to tell anyone, God sees you. When you fall back in that addiction and that shame feels just overwhelming, guess what? God sees you. You see, just because you don't see God doesn't mean God doesn't see you. And part of what I think we have to learn from seasons like 2020 is that we need to let ourselves be seen. I know community and friendship have been challenging through these past 10 months. They have been for me too. But the only way to know that there's a God who sees you is to let others see you as well. To go to a trusted friend and say, hey, here's what I've been going through in my life. Here's what I've been battling. Here's what I've been trying to get over. Friends, you need to let yourself be seen, because before you even ask why, Jesus sees you. Just like he saw this man who had been blind from birth. And then as soon as Jesus noticed him, his disciples noticed him too, which brings us to the why question. Look at what they asked Jesus. They said, Rabbi, they asked him, why was this man born blind? In other words, why did this happen? Why did this man have to suffer this way? But this is not just a simple why question. The disciples also want to know whose fault this is. Look at what they asked next. Was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? In other words, is this his fault, or is it because of something that his parents did before he was born? And basically they're wanting to know, who can be blamed for this? Who can we point the finger at? And by the way, have you ever noticed how easy it is to look for someone to blame when something goes wrong? A few weeks ago, I was trying to get our 2 kids into the car, which usually involves a fair bit of screaming and crying as I'm trying to get them into their shoes and their jackets and then into the car seats. So I found the best way for me to navigate this is to shift into what I'll call a hyper-focused dad mode. It's like this total tunnel vision at the task at hand. I mean, the house could be on fire and I wouldn't know because I'm trying to get those tiny little zippers to actually zip up. And by the way, it's not as easy as it looks. And dads, if you're not saying amen to that, the moms are, because they see you do this. And I was so deep in that hyper-focused dad mode, so much so, I forgot to make sure that the stroller was in the car. Now, it's usually in the car, but in this case, we had taken it out the day before to take a walk on our street. But I didn't remember that because I'm in hyper-focused dad mode. So when we got to the store and I opened the back of the car and I discovered that I had 2 crying kids and no stroller, the first word out of my mouth was, Nina. You see, Nina is my wife, and it was her idea to get the stroller out to take a walk the day before. Therefore, this whole mess must be her fault, which is the exact moment I got a text from her saying, hey, how's it going? And I'm thinking, oh, I'll tell you how it's going. You see, when something bad happens, our first response is almost always blame, because blaming gives us this sense of control when life feels so out of control, which is one of the reasons why there was so much blaming and finger pointing this past year. I mean, think about it. Life has never felt more out of our control than it did in 2020. And one would have hoped the church's response would have been, we were never in control, but let us tell you about the God who is. But instead, so many of us got caught up in the blame game. Here's why this problem is the Republicans' fault, or here's why this problem is the Democrats' fault, or here's why this problem is the media's fault. But here's the thing. Blaming never solves the problem. It doesn't bring people together, doesn't provide any solutions, it doesn't improve any relationships. In fact, writer and researcher Brene Brown says that clinically speaking, blame is simply a way to discharge pain and discomfort. In other words, we blame because we're mad, and blaming someone helps us feel better. But here's the thing, Jesus refused to play that game. When the disciples asked whose fault this is, look at what Jesus said. He said, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sins, Jesus answered. This happened so the power of God could be seen in him. In other words, this man's situation, it's not about who sinned or who messed up or who should have known better. It's about how the power of God can be at work through it. It's about the good that God can bring out of it. You see, we come to God with a question about why or how something happened, and God answers with, here's what I'm going to do with it. We want a reason, but God says, I've got a plan. And the plan isn't based on our power or our ability, it's based on God's power and God's ability, which is far greater than ours. A few weeks ago, our daughter Nora was trying to open a jar, and that lid was sealed on really, really tight. And I was standing there watching her use all of her power to try to turn that lid, and she was squeezing and shaking, but she just couldn't do it. She needed someone who was stronger, someone with like superhuman hand strength, someone who had the grip strength and arm muscles to get the job done. So it was a really good thing that my wife was there. And she grabbed that jar and opened it without flinching. Here's the thing, God's power works in a similar way. It comes to us in moments of weakness or frustration or pain, and it can transform that weakness or pain into something redemptive and beautiful. There's a couple I know in California who had a dream of having the perfect family. And that dream came alive when they had their first daughter, and it felt like it came alive even more 2 years later when they had their second daughter named Hannah. But just 2 days after Hannah was born, she was diagnosed with a brain disorder, and the doctors didn't expect her brain to develop any further. The weeks and months that followed were just a blur of tears and exhaustion and asking why. Why did God let this happen? Why isn't God doing something about it? But instead of giving them a reason, God's power began to show up in all these unexpected ways. They began to experience his presence like never before. They experienced the love of their community like never before. And God provided material support like nursing care and medical treatment for little Hannah. They even told me, these are their words, despite the disappointments, this time has brought us closer to God. We've been incredibly blessed by God's goodness, and we want to thank him for all the ways he's working in our lives and for our beautiful baby Hannah. You see, we don't always get a reason, but God always has a plan. And in the end, God's plan is always better than ours because he takes the mess and the pain and the heartache and the loss and he turns it into something beautiful. He uses it to bless others. And best of all, God never wastes a thing. And that's really the first lesson we need to take into 2021. That's what I want you to write down next to whatever you wrote down on that card or on your phone about 2020. It's this: God never wastes anything. And he won't waste whatever you lost, whatever got disrupted, whatever broke your heart. You may never know all the reasons why, but here's the thing: God always has a plan. And we see that later in the story when Jesus heals this man and restores his sight, as if to say, there's always a plan, there's always a purpose, there's always another chapter in the story. That's what the life and death and resurrection of Jesus is all about. But you have to trust him, you see. You have to trust him in your marriage and with your finances and with your kids and in your school and with your career and with your future and with your health and with your hopes. Because you see, when times are tough, you really only have two choices. You can find someone to blame, or you can find someone to trust. And remember, Jesus also knows something about asking God, why? On the cross, as he suffered unfairly and unjustly, he cried out these words, my God, why have you forsaken me? And then he breathed his last breath, and his body waited 3 long days down in that grave. Why? So that the power of God could be seen in him. And on the third day, it was. On that third day, he rose. On the third day, we discovered that while we may not always get a reason, God always has a plan. And if God reminded me anything over this past year, it's that people need to hear this. They need to know that our God still has a plan, that what happened in 2020 isn't just a waste to be forgotten. It's something that God has the power to redeem and make beautiful. People need to know that. In fact, that's the most urgent task before us as a church. Just look back at what Jesus told his disciples before he healed that man on the side of the road. He said this: we must quickly carry out the task assigned us by the one who sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. But while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. See, this is one of those rare moments when I believe Jesus looked them square in the eye and said, friends, this is urgent. Why? Because life is short. The clock is ticking. Eternity is at stake. See, 2020 wasn't just the year when our lives got harder. It's that year when our mission got clearer. That we are here to lead people into a life-changing relationship with Jesus. Not later, not someday, not when things are back to normal, but right now. And remember, this pandemic, it's actually far from over. 2021 is going to have plenty of challenges too. But no matter how long it takes or what happens next, our message isn't that there's someone we can blame, it's that there's someone we can trust, someone who can bring good out of any situation, someone who never wastes a thing, and it's Jesus. And by the way, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know all the reasons why bad things happen. You just have to let people see where the power of God has been at work in you. I mean, that's exactly what this blind man who was healed went out and did. Look at this. He went out and said, the man they called Jesus made mud and spread over my eyes and told me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash yourself. So I went and washed, and now I can see. See, he didn't give a long sermon on the spiritual condition of blindness. He just told people what Jesus did. He spit on the ground and made some mud and put it on my face, and now I can see. I mean, that's just so simple. That's just so wonderful. That's just so Jesus. And how cool would it be if 1 year from now, that's what people were saying about 2021? That's just so Jesus healing that marriage. That's just so Jesus restoring that relationship. That's just so Jesus helping me forgive that person. That's just so Jesus freeing me from addiction. That's just so Jesus. And if we trust him as a church, if we give ourselves fully to him, then it doesn't matter how long this pandemic takes or whatever challenges may come our way, the power of God is going to be on display, and you can be part of that. And I hope you will. And I hope you'll be back with us for part 2 of this series next weekend. But for now, let me pray. Jesus, you are the source of so much healing and redemption, and it can be so hard to see. I know for me personally this past year, I was so tempted to fall into discouragement and distraction and think that somehow you're missing from the action. But through all that, you saw me, and you saw us, and you saw our world. And in so many moments, you stepped in, and you're still stepping in to bring life and hope and transformation. And so, God, I ask and pray that we would trust you more, that we would lean into you, we would receive this urgent task to let people know there's a God who never wastes a thing, that we have someone we can trust. And so help us trust you this week with all that's in our lives, all that's on our hearts right now. Help us trust you more, Jesus. And we pray this in your name. And everybody said, amen.
Darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Oh, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. 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 Oh, that is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are. That is who you are.
Well, thank you guys again so much for joining us here at Northshore Online. We hope you enjoyed this experience.
Yeah, and next week, January 10th, we're going to be celebrating communion again here on our campus with drive-through communion, 1 to 3 p.m. We hope you'll come on by and celebrate with us. But thank you again for joining us. We can't wait to see you right back here, same time, same place at Northshore Online. See you then.